All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, and welcome to Bold and Gold's virtual orientation. My name is Carly Andrews, and I am Bold and Gold's Summer Program Director. It's definitely starting to feel like summer in the Pacific Northwest, and we hope that you are as excited as we are to have the opportunity to get outside and experience some of our state's most beautiful natural spaces. The Bold and Gold team, some of which you will hear from today, has been busy preparing for this summer, and we wanted to provide you with the information that you might need to prepare as well. As we progress through this presentation, please use the question and answer function, and we will address those questions during the Q&A section at the end of the presentation. With that, we can head on over to the next slide. For 500 generations they flourished until newcomers came. Much was lost, much was devalued, but much was also hidden away in the hearts of the dispossessed. This is an excerpt from Native Americans of the Pacific Northwest, an introduction by David M. Burridge. And so I'd like to take a moment before we get started to acknowledge that I live and work on the ancestral lands of the Coast Salish peoples. And our Bold and Gold adventures will explore the lands of the indigenous people of the Pacific Northwest, which now are designated as national parks and other public lands. These lands have been and continue to be stewarded by Native communities, and it is incumbent upon us to be mindful of this and be good stewards of the land. We will practice leave no trace principles, which we'll talk a little bit more about later in the presentation, to protect these natural spaces while we play, learn, and grow. And now I'll pass it over to Troy, who's going to share with us the equity statement for the Y of Greater Seattle.
Hi everyone, my name's Troy. I manage operations for the Y's Outdoor Leadership Branch. I'm going to take a moment to read the Y's equity statement. It's a driving force behind all the work that we do at Bold and Gold as we seek to remove barriers to the outdoors and natural spaces. The Y actively promotes a culture free from bias and injustice. We are dedicated to removing institutional and systemic barriers that result in oppression and racism. We will be accountable to marginalized communities for creating equitable and sustainable environments where social justice is woven into every facet of our programs, and by caring for our communities in a culturally versatile and respectful manner. I'm going to pass it over to Jeff to talk about what Bold and Gold is.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Troy. Good evening, everybody. I'm excited to be here to talk about Bold and Gold as we prepare for summer. Many of you are likely familiar, but just as kind of an overview, Bold and Gold has been operating for almost 20 years, offering amazing outdoor experiences for young people. We believe that the outdoors is a powerful tool to help people of all ages develop confidence, courage, community awareness, emotional intelligence, and wonder. And ultimately, our goal is to bring together diverse groups of young people and community to develop their skills as leaders, build community, and challenge themselves. And we do that work in kind of two main ways. The first is through our partnership programs, which are customized to schools, nonprofits, and community-based organizations and range from single-day outdoor opportunities to week-long experiences and include hiking, rock climbing, snowshoeing, backpacking, and boating. And then summer programs as well, which are open enrollment and are 1 to 2 week immersive experiences that mix both front country and backcountry opportunities, and also includes our leader in training program, which we'll talk a little bit more about later tonight. Great. So the Bold and Gold program is part of the Camping and Outdoor Leadership branch of the YMCA of Greater Seattle. What's also contained within that branch is our overnight resident camp. So Camp Coleman down on the Key Peninsula and Camp Orkila up on Orcas Island. And then the Outdoor Leadership team is based here in King County and includes Bold and Gold, our Climbing and Challenge programs, Earth Service Corps, as well as a number of other programs, all with a focus on engaging young people and community and using the outdoors as a tool to develop their fullest potential. Great. And this is who is here tonight. So again, my name is Jeff Esseltine. I'm the Executive Director for Outdoor Leadership. And then also joining us tonight, you've had a chance to hear already from Carly Andrews, who is the Director for our summer programs. Troy Donovan is our Operations Manager, who helps support not just Bold and Gold, but all of our outdoor leadership programs. And Kayla Rosno, who is our Partnership Program Director, as well as supporting our summer work. And then finally, Corin Eckley is here who helps support not just Bold and Gold, but our entire camping and outdoor leadership and missions team. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Carly to talk a little bit more about our staff and our instructors.
Great, thanks, Jeff. One of the common questions that we receive from families is they want to know who are the people that are taking our teenager on these trips. And let me tell you, they're professionals. We have 2 trip leaders that go out on every single Bold and Gold program. These are folks who maybe are teachers or outdoor educators, experienced guides, somewhere in that range. Many of them do this professionally as their life, and some are even former participants who have decided to pursue this work after a formative Bold and Gold experience. All of these folks are youth work professionals, so they enjoy working with youth, and they are particularly excited about sharing their love for the outdoors with teenagers. In order to be a trip leader with Bold and Gold, folks must have either a Wilderness First Aid certification or a Wilderness First Responder certification. Both of these are specific medical trainings that basically allow our trip leaders to help support and respond to any type of medical emergency that might happen while groups are out and about. With that, they also have their First Aid and CPR certifications. And then our trip leaders also go through a multi-week training that includes both technical skills as well as social emotional skills to learn about working with groups in this setting and keeping both the physical safety of our participants as well as the emotional safety on the top of their minds. So all that to say, these are some really wonderful folks who are excited to share their love of the outdoors with your teenager, and they bring a lot of passion and energy and excitement into that. Next up, I'll pass it over to Kayla, who's going to share a little bit more about the Leader in Training experience.
Well, thanks, Carly. So again, my name is Kayla Rosno. I am the Partnership Program Director and also the LIT Program Coordinator. LIT stands for Leader in Training. So the Leaders in Trainings are someone that you might see on your trip if you are on a middle school age trip. Our Leaders in Trainings are current juniors and seniors in high school. All of our Leaders in Trainings, or LITs, have applied for the program, done an interview with me, and before they go on a trip, they also go on a 1-week training trip. Part of that training trip is there with 2 of our more experienced Bold and Gold instructors, and the focus of that trip is to gain mentorship experience, get practice teaching and facilitating, really hone in on all those wilderness skills, as well as learn and play a lot of games on that program. So again, you might see or might have a Leader in Training on your trip. They would be alongside 2 of our Bold and Gold instructors. Some other benefits of the Leader in Training program are, again, doing that personal development and growing in your mentor skills. You get to hang out with a cohort of other peers your age that have a passion for helping people get outside and experiencing nature. At the completion of the Leader in Training program, you also get 150 hours of community service. And it's a really great way to build your reference for future jobs, for college applications, and just to have a team to speak to your qualities. Many of our Leaders in Training also continue to be staff. So a lot of our instructors have gone on Bold and Gold trips as participants and then also as Leaders in Training. So it's been a really cool program for us to see people progress and then come on to be instructors. Next, I'm going to talk a little bit more about our curriculum. So like I mentioned, for the Leader in Training program, All of our trips have a leadership focus to them. It's in our name, Outdoor Leadership Development. And kind of a little bit what leadership means to us is everyone feeling a little bit more confident, a little more capable, and just kind of feeling more comfortable with your voice as a leader. So you'll learn on your trip kind of like what that means for you and for all the people in your group. All of our instructors go through a week-long training where they kind of go on like a mock backpacking trip. So not only are they learning how to lead a group of participants, they're also playing a lot of the games that you're going to play. They're going to do a lot of activities that you're going to see. They're going to connect with each other and grow together. So when you're on these trips, just know that your leader has also gone on a very similar trip as an instructor. Where is it? On each of our trips, we also send out a group journal, which I think you can see on the picture, someone doing a cool painting in theirs. But in our group journal, there's also group jobs, we call them. So every day you're going to have a rotation of jobs. So they can vary from being the chef. So that means you get to like help choose what meals you're going to make, and then along with an instructor and another participant help cook that meal. So you can range from like mac and cheese to maybe learning how to make pancakes in the backcountry, to a variety of different foods that Troy will talk about later. Another job in there is getting to be the group journalist. So that person gets to write, draw, create a poem, kind of express themselves in the journal and reflect on that whole day. Everyone gets a chance to do that. And so at the end of your trip, you're going to have this whole collection of everything you did that day written up by someone else or drawn by someone else. And then I think my personal favorite job that you could do is be the photographer. So each of our trips goes out with this like pretty durable camera. It's like sandproof, drop proof, a little bit waterproof, but it is very sturdy. And so you get to take pictures on this group camera, and they all get uploaded at the end of the trip, so you have access to them. But everyone gets a chance to have the camera. So along with the group journal, it's another great way to kind of remember what you did on that trip. And then one final group job that you'll have the chance to do is be the leader of the day. So you're going to work closely with the instructors on your trip to like help set the pace if you're backpacking, to help like set time goals with the group and kind of like help kind of be that like peer mentor for the day. And then you get a chance to like get some feedback and kind of like help other people grow in their leadership as well. Some other things to expect on your trips, you're going to learn some wilderness skills. So whether you are camping at Mount Erie for a climbing trip, you're at Mineral Lake to hike around Mount Rainier, or you're on one of our like backpacking trips on the coast or North Cascades, you're going to learn some wilderness type skills. And what I mean by that is map reading, navigation. You're going to learn how to set up a shelter. If you're backpacking, learn how to pack those packs in a way that's comfortable. So there's a strategy to that you'll learn very well. And then when you're not hiking or climbing or backpacking, you're gonna have time to play a lot of games. So like I mentioned at staff training, your instructors play a lot of games. Some of them involve no props at all. Sometimes they might have silly props or cards with them. But yeah, expect a lot of games, both while you're at camp and then also while you're hiking. At the end of every day, one of my favorite parts of Bold and Gold trips is what we call a courage circle. So a courage circle is the last thing you'll do as a group during the day. You'll all sit down, sometimes around a fire if that's allowed in the area, or you can make a mock fire with like halogens and headlamps and get creative with that. But it's just a chance for you and the group together to come together and reflect on the day. And then we usually do some type of leadership or sharing of self activity. So sometimes that can look like doing some poetry, or we have an activity we do called Fears in the Fire, which is a chance to talk about maybe something you're nervous about on the trip and having a chance for everyone else in the group to like help support you through that. But yeah, and we end our trips with like a nice appreciation circle at the end. So again, you can expect at the end of every day to end with a courage circle. And a typical day on a Bold Gold trip. So these trips are varying in length, so you're going to get into a routine. But usually groups wake up around like 7 a.m. Again, that's going to vary If you're having a rest day, which I'll talk about next, or if you have like a big hike that day. But yeah, again, around 7 a.m. is typically when you wake up. Luckily, the sun's out at that time in the summer. After you wake up, you'll have breakfast, which can vary from like granola and dried fruit. My personal backpacking favorite of oatmeal, or if it's a shorter hike day, you might have like pancakes or something like that. After breakfast, you'll pack up your camp. So that includes like your sleeping pad and your tents. You'll do a quick stretch, sometimes playing a game with that stretch, and then you'll start your hike for the day, or you'll drive to the climb site, or drive to whatever trailhead you are, depending on your trip. I would say on our backpacking trips, you typically hike anywhere from 3 to 5 miles with your packs on, remembering that your packs get lighter every day as you get stronger. So by the end of the trip, you're just cruising through those miles. While you're cruising through those miles, you're also going to take breaks, which is going to be like water breaks, snack breaks, again, playing some more game breaks. But some things that you can expect for lunch, we have tortillas, peanut butter and jelly or sun butter and jelly, cheese, summer sausage. My favorite is peanut butter and honey in a tortilla. And if you have any dietary restrictions, Troy's going to touch on that a little bit later on. But after you've eaten lunch and hiked, you're going to get to your campsite. At your campsites, you have a moment to take off your packs, relax, change shoes, set up your shelters, and then usually have a chance to kind of relax, maybe play some more games or read a book or journal, kind of depending on time. Every day on our trips, we do have a solo time that can vary anywhere from like 5 to like 15 minutes, maybe a little bit more depending on the trip. But yeah, for solo times, you're always near people, but it's a chance for everyone to like, reflect on the day and kind of be quiet. So while it is solo time, you're still near other people, but still get that chance to kind of be with yourself in nature for a little while. But after that solo time, it's typically time for dinner, which can vary from like burritos to mac and cheese to my favorite, which is pita pizzas. After dinner, there's sometimes a dessert. So you can have like brownies or cinnamon rolls. I think just like sometimes Oreos are my favorite dessert after a long day. After dinner and dessert, you'll clean up dinner and then do that courage circle like we talked about earlier. And then it's time to get ready for bed. So after a typical day, on each of our trips, we have 1 or 2 rest day activities, which is the next slide. So on each of our trips, we'll have 1 or 2 rest days. So on rest days, if you're on a backpacking trip, you're not going to hike with your pack on that day. If you're on a climbing trip, you're not going to climb that day. And it's really a chance for you to kind of mentally and physically relax after all you've done on your trip so far. So sometimes that includes sleeping in a little bit more, which is always nice. You might cook some more elaborate meals. So like those cinnamon rolls sometimes take a little bit more time. So those are nice on a rest day. But it's kind of a chance to like splash in water if there's water nearby, have a spa day. Also a good time to play all those card games or journal a little bit. Some other activities you can expect on your rest day is if you're near something that's pretty cool, like a lake or like a mountain off in the distance, sometimes you'll do a day hike where you'll just take lighter packs with you and go on like a shorter, milder hike that day to get a cool view. Or if you're on the coast, you can do some tide pooling, which is pretty cool, and see all the critters that live below the high tide. But that's rest days, and I'm going to pass it off to Troy to talk about Leave No Trace.
Hello again, everyone. So what is Leave No Trace? Leave No Trace is a series of principles that we follow as Bold and Gold to minimize our impact on the natural spaces that we're interacting with. I'm not going to go through all of the principles right now, but most of our trips stop at the Wilderness Information Center on their way to the parks that they're spending their time in, and a park ranger will visit with our participants and staff and go over those 7 principles with them, and they can carry that knowledge with them on their journey. If they don't end up stopping at the Wilderness Information Center, our instructors all have that information, and they have a bunch of different fun games to pass that information along to the young people and make sure we're leaving no trace and minimizing the impact on the natural spaces we're spending time in, because we do send a lot of youth into these areas. And when we're going into these areas, let's talk about the things we're going to bring with us and not leave behind. So all of our packing lists for all of our trips are going to be available to you in your admissions packet, as well as the Summer Experiences Handbook, and they're specific to each trip. Although they look very similar, there are some nuances in there, as all of our experiences that we offer are different, so we need to bring different items for those things. The biggest thing we're looking for as you're packing your clothing items is that you're trying to avoid cotton clothing. You probably have a lot of polyester clothes like polyester sweatpants or athletic shorts, things like that. Bring those things with you. If you have an item that you're not quite sure about, bring it with anyways, because after we do our opening circle on that first day of your adventure, we're going to come into the Cascade People Center, which is our base camp where all of our programs start and end. And we're going to, with the help of your instructors and the logistics team, go through all of the items that you brought and make sure everybody has what they need to be safe and successful on their 1 to 2 week experience. So with that in mind, don't spend a crazy amount of time packing all your stuff away super neatly as you're on your way to your Bold and Gold trip, because we're going to take it all out of your bag once you get here anyways. And we have a very extensive gear library at the Cascade People Center. We have everything you could possibly need to go on one of our trips. You could show up with literally nothing, and we have everything that you need to borrow at no additional cost. We wouldn't put it on the packing list if we didn't have it in the building for everyone to use whenever they need it. That being said, stick to the packing list. We don't want to bring any additional items, especially when we're going on a backpacking trip. We're carrying all that weight on our back, so we want to make sure we're keeping our backpacks as light as possible. Over the years, we've really dialed in what you need to bring to have a good time on these trips. So please just trust us. I know it doesn't seem like enough stuff, but it really is. That's all you need for a backpacking trip. Climbing trips and the Tahoma trips, you don't need to worry about bringing your own helmets, harnesses, all that. All that safety equipment is going to be provided by us. We keep tabs on all those items, recording their use so we know that they're still safe to use. So please leave your harness and helmet at home. Even if you're a super experienced climber, you got to use our stuff. Let's talk about sleeping. So we use tarp shelters on all of our programs. The image on the left here is what most folks are going to interact with. Those are pyramid style tarp shelter. We call them mids, because who has time to say pyramids? Those sleep 4 inside of them. And if you're going on a fishing trip, you might interact with a shelter that has some mesh netting going down to the ground there. To kind of keep the mosquitoes that the fish like to eat away from your body as you're sleeping. We use tarp shelters because they're really lightweight and we're carrying these things on our backs on backpacking trips, and they're also just a lot easier to use. You'll notice they don't have a ground or a floor to them, so every individual is going to get a ground tarp, and that's going to kind of act as the bottom of your tent. You don't need to bring those things. We have all those things. Please don't bring your own shelter. Some of you will interact with our adventure tarps, is what we call them. They sleep 5. That's the image on the right there. And these can be set up in all sorts of different configurations. And the reason we use these is for our abuse prevention policies. If we have a group of 5 or our gender ratios are off in a way that we can't get 3 people in each tent, we're going to use a adventure tarp like we have on the right there. Lightweight, super fun to set up. You get to learn all different sorts of fun knots to set up these shelters, and you'll be a pro at it by the end of your trip. What goes under those shelters are ground tarps like I talked about earlier, and then on top of that we're going to have our closed cell foam sleeping pad. They're ultra lightweight, they're pretty comfy. They insulate you from the cold ground, and they add a little bit of softness as you're sleeping there. We want to avoid bringing any inflatable pads, just because when they pop, they're pretty much popped for good. It's really hard to find and repair holes in those. And the closed cell foam pads would, in the event of a thunderstorm, insulate you from any ground strikes traveling up through the ground into your body. So it's a safety piece as well. Very rarely do we interact with thunderstorms on our trips, though. Just a little safety note. Let's talk about hygiene on our trips. How do we stay clean out there? So on our backcountry trips, backcountry trips would be like backpacking, and then our front country trips would be like climbing trips and our Tahoma trips. You're gonna filter all your own water. On the left here, we have some water bags set up. That is water filtering for folks to drink. We send out soap for people to wash their hands with, some hand sanitizer to do like a quick clean. And then on the right here, we have some folks dipping in the water. So bathing is encouraged. We like to swim around, have a good time, dip in the water. We go up to our waist because not all of our staff are lifeguards. It's a good way to refresh yourself, and just honestly a really fun thing to do on a hot summer day. Bandanas are really helpful for keeping yourself clean. A wet bandana can do wonders. And we also use Kula cloths if you're a person that squats to pee. Kula cloth is a really cool piece of technology. It has silver thread woven into it, so it has a natural antibacterial properties, and use that to wipe yourself with. It's a great tool. We have them to borrow, or you can go out and get your own if you're more comfortable with that. We set up hand washing stations. There's an example of that right there. If you're a human who menstruates, please bring menstrual supplies that you're most comfortable using. We do have an endless supply at the Cascade People Center if it slips your mind day of to pack out, but our instructors do not keep enough in the first aid kit for everyone to use. So please try to remember to bring your own, or we have tons for you to borrow day of. Just throwing that in there. All right, let's talk about food. What are we going to eat? So we've worked really, really hard to compile a menu for our instructors to pick and choose from. So all of the participants on our trips are going to find something that they're both familiar with and something new that they're trying. So we've taken those meals and we've kind of adapted them for camping and hiking and all that good stuff. So you're going to see things like pancakes. You're going to see things like pita pizzas. Kayla mentioned earlier, it's just like a pizza, but it's a flatbread dough, so it's lighter and smaller to pack down. Mac and cheese, we use that dehydrated cheese, so it's lighter weight, and we're not carrying as much cheese. We do bring a lot of actual cheese. And we use things like dehydrated mashed potatoes and dehydrated milk, and then you put water in it, and it's just like regular milk and regular potatoes, just a little lighter weight to go on your back if you're backpacking. If you're on a front country trip, we're just going to bring milk. We're just going to bring potatoes. So those climbing trips, we're going to bring the regular milk and the regular potatoes. Yeah, so staples, regular things you're going to find. If you have any dietary restrictions, shoot an email to camp info. Let them know if you want to talk to me about it. I'm more than happy to do it. It's a really big part of my job. We've seen all sorts of different dietary restrictions. We have a plan. We've been really intentional with our menu to make them really versatile, so people are finding things that they can eat and having the fuel they need to be successful on their journey. Every single trip is going to get a pound of salty, crunchy snacks for every day. So things like Goldfish, Cheez-Its, animal crackers, Chex Mix, pound of that every day for the entire group. Every group's also going to get a pound of dried fruit. So like mango, apricots, banana chips, pound of that for every day. And then each individual is going to get a bag of Gorp that's a little over a pound, trail mix. So nuts, chocolate, raisins, seeds, things like that. If you can't eat nuts. Don't worry, we got you covered. We have delicious trail mix that works for you too. Everybody gets a pound of that as an individual to just eat whenever they want. A lot of our instructors will also bring a high-low bag, which is just a little treat that you can eat either at a really high moment or maybe like you just did a really challenging hike and you want to celebrate that moment with the group. Things in there might be like Snickers bars or like maybe some Sour Patch Kids, just something delicious and light for you to celebrate a moment with. That's what we're going to have. Food's really good. And now, Jeff's going to talk about risk management.
Thanks, Troy. Much of what Troy just kind of shared is actually part of the way that we're managing risk within Bold and Gold. The reality is that, being outdoors and doing things with groups of young people, there is inherently some risk in that. And Bold and Gold has some extensive strategies in place to help us mitigate that, including an emergency action plan that guides our response, as well as site-specific plans for all the locations that we visit. And we also have a 24/7 on-call system that includes both medical advisory support and mental health advisory support. So within all of that risk management, there's basically 3 layers to how this works. And the first is the training. So as Carly shared earlier, our instructors are all trained in wilderness first aid with at least one instructor on each trip who's trained with it as a wilderness first responder. And then in addition to the wilderness medicine, our staff are taking part in 8 days of Bold and Gold training that includes abuse prevention, wilderness technical skills, and then making sure that they fully understand how to execute our risk management systems as well. The second layer in that risk management system is our check-ins. So in order for us to really understand and monitor the health and well-being of everyone on the trip, we are doing daily instructor check-ins. So they have an opportunity to check in with each participant to ask how they're feeling physically and emotionally. And this really allows us to be proactive and understand if a young person has blisters, or if they're experiencing headaches or an upset stomach, or if they have some anxiety about being away from home and are experiencing homesickness. Those scheduled check-ins are a really important part of the structure that we've put in place so that we can proactively both be aware and then take action to help support young people and then the entire trip so they have a positive experience. And then the third layer of that is our field resources. So while every one of our trips are in the field, most of them are actually going to be outside of normal cell phone range and some distance from services. So to ensure that we can communicate with them, each group will carry a satellite phone. Each group has scheduled check-in calls throughout the course of their trip to provide us with updates, receive kind of weather information, confirm logistics, talk about itineraries. And then satellite phones really serve as that kind of crucial link so groups can call us at any point if they're looking for additional information or need additional support. One big thing I like to emphasize, though, is that those satellite phones are really used in emergencies and are just for staff use only. In addition to the satellite phones, each of our groups goes out with an extensive first aid kit that contains both basic medical supplies as well as over-the-counter medications, and we also carry epinephrine. And then kind of the last piece that I will kind of mention here is the base camp resources. So we start and end all of our programs from a location here in Seattle. And in the event that there is an incident or an accident and our field instructors use the satellite phone to contact our on-call system. This group of staff that's on this call, as well as our summer leadership teams, so our course directors, our logistics manager, our participant support folks, they'll work together as a team to put together a plan of action to ensure that we have the right supports in place to ensure that everyone is getting the care and support that they need and address any issues that are occurring. I'll also make note here that you all, families, caregivers, support folks, you're a really important part of how all of this works. You're an important resource and a really big part of the way that we manage risk here. If a young person is struggling on a trip, our course directors or our program directors, they may reach out for advice or tips that you have. You all know your young people much better than we do. So like hearing about things that are working well or ways that we can encourage them and support them will really just ensure that everyone has a successful and enjoyable experience. A few other pieces of risk management that I like to hit on because we often get questions about it. First is around transportation. So we use 14 passenger minibuses for each of our groups to travel from our base camp location here in Seattle to all of the wonderful, beautiful places they're going to go across Washington. So that generally is 2 of our instructors, occasionally a separate bus driver, and the entire trip. And all of their gear can fit on one bus. And they will generally make the drive to and from in a single day. And then they'll most often be in front country locations as they start their trip. In addition to that, Troy talked a little bit about sleeping arrangements, but something that I really like to focus on is that, we use pyramid, these mid-style tents, open air for a variety of reasons, but one of them is also because it allows us to ensure that we have at least 3 young people in each of those tents, which is in compliance with our child abuse prevention policies. And then the last thing that I want to add is in recent years, we've kind of seen an increase in the number of young people coming to the trips with electronic location devices. So air tags, tiles, smart tags, etc. And I really just want to emphasize that those are strongly discouraged. The majority of those only work if you're close to a cell phone tower or if you're in cell phone range, and the majority of our trips won't be there. So we have received calls from folks who are saying, how come my young person's not moving? Or why does it look like they're still in Seattle? And it generally is because those tags got left here at our base camp or because they're not within cell service. And really what I would love to emphasize is if you're looking for an update and you want to touch base, feel free to give us a call or send us an email. We're hearing from groups on a really routine basis, and we're happy to give updates as we have them and kind of keep you in the loop as things are developing. But those tracking devices are honestly not very helpful when we're in the backcountry or out in the wilderness. And with that, I'm going to hand it back over to Carly to talk about some of those great places that we get to travel.
Great. Thanks, Jeff. Let's talk about all of these cool spots that our trips go to. So first up, we'll take a moment to connect about Olympic National Park. So Olympic National Park is located on the Olympic Peninsula. On the slide here, you can see that it is a really large space. So all the dark green on this left picture is Olympic National Park. Most of our trips are exploring a section of the Olympic coast. It's a really wild and beautiful area where the land meets the sea. So participants on these trips are hiking on sand, boulders, along some forest paths. There's tide pooling, and they're hiking with the tide, which can be really fun and see some areas of exposed rock that you might not get to see during high tide. Can be challenging in that sometimes it means you got to wake up kind of early to get around some spots. For these trips, mileage is relatively low, but the terrain can be difficult. Turns out that hiking on slippery, wet rocks can be really challenging. And so we like to take our time and know that sometimes the mileage doesn't look as high as they might in the North Cascades, but that's because it can be tricky walking along the coast. So the trips that go to the Olympic coast are Call to the Coast, which is formerly known as Olympic Coastal Backpacking, Olympic Challenge, and Backpacking and Leadership trips. Those all are along kind of that Pacific Ocean section of the Olympic coast. Another trip that goes to Olympic National Park is called Heart of Nature, and that is a trip that is exploring the Olympic interior. So it is actually starting from one of the most southern points of Olympic National Park in an area called Staircase, and they hike into the center of kind of that large green area of Olympic and then kind of head back out. And so that's a really beautiful area that gets to see some mountains and snow-capped peaks of the Olympic interior. But by and large, I'd say majority of our trips in Olympic head to the coast. It is a bit of a drive, and so participants can expect to be on a minibus for a little bit longer for those programs, and then they'll also come back with a little bit more sand in their shoes. But with that, we'll go to our next slide, and we'll get a little welcome from one of our contacts at Olympic National Park.
Hello and greetings from Olympic National Park. My name is Macy. I'm so excited that you're going to be backpacking with us this summer in Olympic National Park. I am standing here along Peabody Creek, surrounded by the evergreen forest of cedar, fir, and spruce trees. I'm wearing the National Park Service uniform, and you will often see us in green and gray when we are out on the trails this summer. When you all come to Olympic National Park this summer, you're going to be experiencing the wilderness. You will be surrounded by natural sounds like birds and wildlife, and you will be able to see incredibly dark night skies and be out in places that people only get to see when hiking or backpacking. We need leaders like you to help us keep Olympic clean, safe, and memorable for everyone, including yourselves. We are so excited that you're coming to this national park because national parks belong to you and to everyone, and we hope that everyone gets to have a wonderful experience here. On behalf of Olympic National Park staff, I want to welcome you to the park. Please reach out if you have any questions, and we can't wait to see you out on the trails.
Awesome. Thanks, Macy. Macy is just one of many park rangers that we work with kind of across Olympic National Park, North Cascades, as well as Mount Rainier. And so it's always really fun to be able to connect with them and to have them meet up with groups on occasion. So who knows, maybe you'll get to meet Macy in person this summer. The next park on our national park adventure is North Cascades National Park. So we have quite a few trips that head to North Cascades National Park. This would be Peaks and Creeks, Cascade Challenge, Taste of Adventure, called the North Cascades, our leader in training trips, as well as backpacking and fishing trips, and American Alps. With North Cascades, it is located north of Seattle, right on the border of Canada in the United States. If you know where Mount Baker is, it's kind of tucked behind Mount Baker there. And it's a really beautiful wild park that is approximately 3 hours northeast. So some of our trips are spending time backpacking around Ross Lake, which is the really long, skinny lake that's kind of surrounded by yellow on this photo here. Some trips head to the high country and explore mountain passes and smaller lakes up there. And other trips will spend some time walking through beautiful forests and along creeks. Either way, for our North Cascades trips, they are hiking along forested trails. They are seeing more fresh water than ocean water as compared to Olympic. And they are typically seeing a little bit more mileage for their hikes, as well as a little bit more elevation gain and loss on those programs. And then next up, we'll talk about Mount Rainier National Park. So we have one type of program that goes to Mount Rainier National Park, and that is either our Tahoma trip or our Mount Rainier trips. And these are what we call front country programs. So they are camping and setting up their camp at a YMCA location called Mineral Lake, which is just outside of Mount Rainier National Park, where they'll be set up there for their full trip. And then they do day trips into Mount Rainier National Park to explore some of those areas. The cool thing about our Tahoma trips is that these are really a great introduction to the outdoors and wonderful ways to explore these beautiful outdoor areas. And so a lot of times participants get to have a little bit more choice in the types of hikes they do, whether they go see kind of more mountain views, maybe they'll see some waterfalls. And there's some options about the different kind of challenge levels of hikes available. So they get to see a lot of different areas of the park and explore that, but also they're not having to carry all of their stuff with them throughout the time. So they get to do it more by a day trip pieces. Next up, we'll talk about Mount Erie and our Sea to Summit trips. So CETA Summit trips are also front country trips. These are 1-week climbing trips where they will go and they'll camp at a state park that's out near Anacortes, Washington. So they'll set up their campsite for the week, and then they'll do day trips to Mount Erie Park to do some outdoor rock climbing. It's about a 20 to 30-minute drive from their campground each day, so groups will kind of pack their lunches and head out for the day, and they'll learn basic climbing techniques, how to belay. Sometimes they even are able to do a rappel down a section of the rock areas, and they'll do this with a beautiful view of the San Juan Islands kind of in the distance, as you can see in that picture. So again, CETA Summit trip, they head out to Mount Erie and do some rock climbing. Similar to our Tahoma trips, they are what we call front country, which means that they are camping and kind of setting up camp for the whole week and then doing day programs from there. And then with that, I'll pass it over to Corin, who's going to talk a little bit more about the admissions process and kind of what to expect from there.
Hello, my name is Corin, and I'm going to be talking about kind of next steps and what to expect before and leading up to your trip. So the registration process, most folks have already registered, but you can still register for programs, and we are always happy to help with that if you need assistance. For folks that have already registered, you should have received an email pointing you to where all of the forms are to fill out, as well as our summer handbook, which we've also got in the chat there for you to see. It's really important that you get all of those forms filled out that have been assigned in your UltraCamp account. We use all of that information actually to help plan the trips in terms of, meals are built around if we have any dietary restrictions or any specific preferences there. And our instructors actually tailor the curriculum on the trip based on what participants fill out in their forms. So for instance, if you are somebody who's really interested in astronomy, our instructors can make sure to bring out star charts, or if you're particularly interested about plant identification, they can make sure to have extra plant ID guides. Part of that form is filling out the Camp Care Info form, which is kind of more of a general health history form. We also ask for caregiver and participant questionnaires. Those are really helpful just to find out more information about the participants going on these trips. We want to know what you're excited about for this trip. If you're nervous about anything, your instructors would love to answer those questions for you. So the more information you give us on those forms, the more we can prepare and be ready for you all. The members of our admin team review those Camp Care Info forms ahead of time, and if our team has any questions, you may hear from our participant support director. They may reach out if they have any specific questions on how best to support the participants on the trip. Leading up to each of these trips, you will receive a welcome email, typically about 2 weeks before the trip. That'll have kind of some more specific information about check-in times. Trips usually check in the mornings, 8 or 9 o'clock. And so you'll get your specific assigned check-in time and pickup time and other sort of day of information that's particularly helpful. In the days leading up to your trip, the instructors will give you a call. They call 1 to 2 days before the trip. They just want to introduce themselves, say hi, and answer any questions. Typically, they'll ask to speak to both the participant and the caregiver. We want to hear from both. We want to know from the participant. What are they excited about? What are they nervous for? Do they have questions about gear? Maybe some clarifying questions if folks have food allergies or dietary needs, and just kind of generally what to expect from the folks that are going to be leading your trip and what your trip is going to look like. The instructors also would love to get a chance to chat with caregivers. They'll remind you to have a sack lunch for the participants going on the trip. Again, if there's any gear questions, they're happy to answer that, and then give some reminders about medications and how those should be packaged before the trip. As Jeff mentioned earlier, all of our trips start and end at the Cascade People Center, which is kind of in the South Lake Union Cascade neighborhood. So like I said, you'll get that email about 2 weeks before the trip, giving you your check-in times and your pickup times. On the last day of the trip, there will be a closing circle about it's 4:30. And then we do ask that caregivers are able to stay for that. Often the participants will share maybe a skit or some appreciations for each other. Sometimes they write songs, just kind of summing up their experience for the group. And then typically those closing circles wrap up by about 5 o'clock. If trips were to run into any traffic or anything like that, we would reach out to let you know if that closing circle was going to be delayed at all. But we try our very best to have everybody ready to go at 4:30. And we ask the instructors to plan for traffic as well. On the first day of the trip for check-in, participants will sign themselves in. They should have a caregiver with them. So just in case there's any kind of last minute information to pass off, and then we ask caregivers to stay for an opening circle, which again takes about 20 or so minutes. Once that opening circle has happened, all the participants will head inside with their gear and do that gear check like Troy talked about, where we dump everything out of all of the bags and go through that packing list one by one and make sure everybody has or has borrowed what they need. As I said earlier, the instructors will remind you in that check-in call that participants do need to have a sack lunch with them for that first day. Since they'll be eating lunch typically before they hop on the bus. And then for any participant medications, and this includes supplements, vitamins, whether they're prescribed or over the counter, we do need that information to be in the admissions packets. You want to make sure that you have enough medication for the whole trip. And they do need to be in the original packaging or bottle. We know those like pill containers can be super handy at home to have everything organized, but when we go on the trips, we do have to have the medications in the original containers. Participants who use an inhaler, if you have to, we recommend that you bring both in case one is lost or broken. Same thing with EpiPens. Sorry about that. Yeah, if you want to have a backup if you've got it. All the medications do need to be checked in and turned in at check-in. And then rescue medications like inhalers and EpiPens, participants can carry those if they feel comfortable. If they prefer the instructor to carry it, that's okay too. And then at the end of the trip, when you pick up your young person, you'll need to make sure that you either have the pickup ticket that you get at check-in, or that the caregiver picking up has a photo ID matching the authorized pickup list that we ask for in that paperwork, so we can safely get everybody home to the right place. Are there any questions? All right. If you think of any questions, or if you are viewing this as a recording, you can always contact us. The best email is campinfo@seattleymca.org. Our admin team monitors that email. You can also scan this QR code, and that'll take you straight to our Bold and Gold participant corner. That has our handbook. It also has all sorts of other super helpful pages. The packing list is there, how to get to the Cascade People Center for drop-off, and probably any other questions you might have you can find on that helpful website. Again, that email is campinfo@seattleymca.org. We're looking forward to seeing you this summer.